Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floater. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom!
NBA Hardwood Show back for some more winners. Two-man booth here with me and my guy, DC, putting out the Baltimore Orioles gear here. I was just telling DC prior to this past weekend, I was at a Orioles spring training game. Pretty fun. Nice baseball game here. But DC, we got some hoops to talk about here. Nice solid slate. DraftKings got some nice contests for NBA tonight. Nice $5 with $100K up top. A big 2-2-2 if you want to up those entries a little bit and go higher up in stakes. So a lot of nice contests on DK. And then, of course, we got the PGA, the players, with all the big contests that locks tomorrow for golf. And we'll be doing a little golf show later tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time with me, Big T, JBC, and Uncle T if you're into the PGA winners. But DC, how you doing here on this nice Wednesday afternoon?
I'm doing well. Back in the DFS saddle here on Wednesday. Spent a few days in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Had some fun, but you can't play DFS there. And honestly, despite it being DFS, you also can't really like gamble on sports like I'm used to, with the apps. And so it was a good time to spend a few days away, get batteries recharged. But I'm happy to be back and making some lineups, of course, getting ready for baseball here. And man,
DC, how awful is it when you can't do your normal online sports betting like from your phone? How awful is it? Because I was in Florida this past weekend, and I pick up my phone to go multiple times just to naturally while I'm watching something to click the app, and then I'm like, oh shit, I can't.
It's not great, and happy to, like I said, happy to have all these things at my disposal, DFS and betting wise. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to catch up today, right, on what happened in the NBA, because if you can't bet and you can't play DFS, I'm not going to pay attention to what's happening in the NBA world. But it's so funny. It's if you go back 2 or 3 slates, completely the league can have changed. One random ass player comes in from the G League for a game and drops 55 fantasy points. You forget about it, right, the next day, and you move on, and it's somebody else. So even just looking at, who's had these monster games, what Quentin Grimes put up, 75 fantasy points, 60 fantasy points. I mean, players with some huge games. So
he's done that a couple times. Yeah. But if you want a lowdown, I can give you a lowdown on last night, DC, because I was watching some hoops all night. I actually, by the way, easy under for the Brooklyn Nets. If you tailed that bet that I gave yesterday on the show, that was a nice, easy 10 or 11 point, under cashing. So hopefully some people tailed that bet. Hopefully some people tailed the Zion Williamson play. Nice triple-double for Zion. Also played over 30 minutes, which was part of the point with the call. So you didn't need him to ship necessarily, but if you played him, you were probably pretty happy. So a couple things. But DC, I was tilted. So I bet I had this 4-leg parlay going for hoops, and I had 3 of the legs locked in. And my only leg left was the Milwaukee game. I don't know if you got to see the end of the Bucks game, even if you just saw the highlights. But the Bucks were up 3. There was 4 seconds left in the game, 5 seconds left. And Indiana had the ball on the sidelines, taking it out.
I did see the last
Tyrese Halliburton caught the ball, and not only did he hit the 3, but he got the and one. Because if it goes to overtime, that's okay. That's fine. I needed the Bucks to win. That's all. I had Bucks money line left.
A 4-point play got it.
A 4-point play got it. So it cost me a nice $2,500 parlay going.
I assume you're watching it and you're like, all right, even if it goes to overtime, we'll still have a decent chance to win. And it probably didn't even cross your mind that you could get a 4-point play in the game.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't. But when I saw the alignment of how they set up for the play, I was instantly like, oh, fuck. They're like showing something because DC, they all lined up in the back court, like all lined up. And then they did like a little zigzag thing. And I was like, I'm watching this and I'm going like, do they think this is a playoff game? Are they trying to like show like, they should have held this back. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, why didn't they hold this back like in the cards? Because this is sick. You don't normally see teams like set all 4 of their guys in the backcourt and then have them all run down kind of at the same time and they like mesh. And it was a cool design, but you don't normally see it. And I was like, instantly I knew, I was like, oh fuck, someone's going to be open. Right. So then I'm thinking like, okay, if he hits the 3, no big deal. And then I saw him fall and then the whistle blew and I was like, oh my God. So that was just a nice little bad beat for myself there, but it was fun.
It's not a fun way to lose. Not a fun way to lose. That's for sure.
Also, too, a super soft call. Like when you're fading, I get protecting shooters. Like I'm totally fine with that. If you're in his landing space, I'm okay. But when you shoot a jump shot and you're falling sideways away, what the hell is the defender supposed to do if you're like falling sideways? I don't know how you can be like that was in his like landing space or whatever, but maybe he hit him on the hand. I don't know. I thought it was a weak call. It went in, whatever. And either way, doesn't matter. We're on to the next day, but it was a crazy shot.
I didn't scrutinize the foul call probably as closely as you did, so I don't really have an opinion.
I definitely was scrutinizing it while it happened. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?"
Yeah.
But yeah. And it was Giannis of all people to foul. Like it was Giannis. Like at least let it be like Brooke Lopez or something like not Giannis. God, you don't need to foul.
James agreed with you. Foul call was absurd. Should have been no call.
It was terrible, James. Thank you. At least I'm not crazy. Because sometimes totally I'm biased, right? Obviously, I thought the Bucks were the right call. I bet them. I obviously thought they were the right play, but in the moment, you lose all like you're just totally locked into your bet. So you're just like, screw that if it doesn't go your way. And if it goes your way, you're like happy. So I'm glad that at least James had my back there. So, all right, we can get into this slate. Oh, by the way, how was Vegas? Anything happen with you and JT? Was it good?
No, yeah, just got to hang out for a few days. Ended up playing a lot of live poker, which was fun and profitable. So we'll take it. Got some fun in the sun, and yeah, it was a good time.
Was JT playing poker too?
What's that?
Was JT playing poker?
No poker for JT. Just me over there. But it was a good time for sure. But
all right,
yeah, I was happy to be back in the mountains this morning after 5 days on the strip. That was enough for me. Ready to be home.
5 days on a strip. That's a long time to be on the strip. I'll say that. 3 days, and I was ready. I was like, all right, I'm good.
It should have been one less day. I didn't need that last day there, but is what it is.
That's all right. For next time. Like next time you go, you're like just shorten the trip up a little bit and good to go. So, all right. You were talking about, by the way, random dudes who like come in and drop 50. AJ Lawson's another guy like for Toronto, dropped 53 last time out. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. And Toronto is down a ton of guys. So he'll be someone that we have to discuss. DC, but we'll start with Charlotte and Atlanta here. We'll roll through these games. Nice too on DraftKings. The slate 7:30 and 8. All the games locked between 7:30 and 8, which I love. This is perfect. You got what is it? You got like 5, 6. What do we got here? 7 games, I think, on the DraftKings slate here, at least on the main slate. So it's perfect, DC. I think 7 games is like a perfect amount of games. Lock with between 7:30 and 8. That's what I like.
I was a little worried, Jesse, I was going to come back and my first slate was going to be like 12 games and 4 hours long. No. So I'm happy to have the 7-game blitz on after a few days off.
That's right. And DraftKings got us covered here. So at least we get the nice and tight DK slate for the main slate here, 7 games. But Charlotte, Atlanta, first game up here. Trae Young looks to be back. Karis LeVert looks like he should be back too, but he's still questionable. I think he's going to play. Clint Capella is out with personal reasons. So we'll see what happens with him. Charlotte, their main, 3 studs are in, which is kind of what matters the most for, at least for me, for Charlotte. So DC, we'll start off with you here. What are you doing with Charlotte and Atlanta? I think on the surface looks like a decent spot to target.
Yeah, I think so too. And, unlike some slates where we have stretched out games, we got to, backload, wait for news. You can't necessarily do that on this slate, obviously, with just the 2 start times at 7:30 Eastern and 8 Eastern. So, yeah, can't write off this game. Atlanta side, player I'm looking at most closely is Okongwu. Obviously, with Capella out, I think he's going to have to play some pretty big minutes. 7,100 for Okongwu. Against Charlotte, I think looks pretty good. Ricochet, I think, is somewhat interesting at 4,400, playing well, getting minutes. And then on the Charlotte side, with Bridges and LaMelo rather, and Williams healthy, I think you got to choose between those guys. So I like the Atlanta side better. Okongwu, my favorite player of the bunch. Looks like Mohamed Gueye is projecting pretty well, at least as a value play, but I don't love that. And then, I think LaMelo is fine, as is Bridges. Curious where you ended up on this one, JSU.
Yeah, I on this slate actually, and I haven't been playing Charlotte a lot, but I do think that these Charlotte guys are pretty good plays. And, just looking at what Miles Bridges has been doing recently, some of these games, LaMelo might not be playing, or Mark Williams, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but still 32, 20, 19 shots his last 3 games, putting up 64, 54, and 54 fantasy points. Obviously starting to explode a little bit. It does feel a little pricey, but honestly, 50 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. He's been good. The one game actually where in the 5-game stretch where he didn't go 50 plus DC, he shot 1 for 8 from 3. Still shot 20 times though, just shot 1 for 8 from 3. So, a couple threes go in, that's he's right up there at the 50 spot. So, I think he's in play. I think he's actually a solid play here, even at 8,600. I like Mark Williams. I actually think both centers seem like solid plays. Maybe Okongwu is slightly better just with no Capella. I think that's also why Mohamed Gueye is probably projecting a little bit better, DC, because you got no Capella. So you got those 4 and possibly 5 minutes that could go to Gueye here in this spot. So he's 3,700. I don't think he's like anything special, but right now, depending on the value we get, he looks like an okay value play. I'm fine with him. He's not someone that I feel like I need, but he's someone that I can definitely be okay with fitting in if I need a cheap guy for a last spot. So I do like the bigs here. Okongwu, Mark Williams. I think Bridges is my favorite play overall. The guards are the 2 that I probably won't get to on the slate. I don't think I'm going to play LaMelo here. Trey's a better play to me than LaMelo. If you just ask me which one straight up, I'd pick Trey. I don't know if I'm going to get to Trey though. I guess we'll have to kind of run through it a little bit. I don't think he's a terrible play though. I think I'm going to prefer other spend ups than Trey when we get to different games. So, and then Karis LeVert. If he's in right now, he's questionable, but I still think he's priced kind of fairly at 5,400. I think that's a fair price, DC, to get a little LeVert at that. If he is in, if he is ruled out, then maybe we can come back to the table on some of these other cheap guys, like maybe a Ricochet or something at 4,400. But I don't know. Do you see anything else in that cheap range besides Gueye that you like?
No, I don't think so. I think Gueye looks like he's the one to play if you're going cheap. Ricochet, I guess, would be 4,400. You could play him too. I'm fine either one.
I think I'd like Niang more if Karis LeVert was out. Not that they play the same position or anything. It's just the role off the bench probably expands a little bit more for someone like him and Ricochet. So, Yeah, I don't hate the Niang call. I do think he's like a good tournament pivot too, off of someone like Gay. He's a little more expensive, DC, but we've seen some decent games out of Niang just kind of pop up. So I don't hate the call, to be honest.
Are Gay, Niang, and Risa Shea all kind of competing for minutes a role? I would imagine to some degree. Just in terms of
some degree.
I'm just
I
not sure
think
you're
Gay's a little more locked in now because of the fact Clint Capella's out.
Yeah.
So you're get like the direct backup. And for whatever reason, Atlanta's been kind of holding back, it feels like, Okongwu from playing more than like 30, 31 minutes, which means you're going to get like a guaranteed of like what, 16, 17 minutes as a backup center role probably. And that's if he doesn't play any four, right? So
yeah,
I don't know if he is going to compete with Niang's minute. That's kind of why I think Niang makes even more sense, because if he's not going to play much four, then I think a lot of those minutes go to Risha Shea and Niang more than they do Gay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Most of Gay's minutes will come in the backup five. So I think it's more Niang and maybe Risa Shea that potentially competing for minutes to some degree. That makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of Trey and Melo, I'm with you. Give me Trey over LaMelo if I've got to choose. But there's point guard at the end of the slate, or I guess the slate's pretty quick. But Harden, I like kind of in that same, high end. I just prefer him by quite a bit over Trey and LaMelo. So kind of hard to fit two of those three. It'll be Harden for me if I can only fit one.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll get to him in a little bit. I do think there's, some other guards that as we go to, but I will say, out of the 7 games on the main slate here, kind of just looking at it, this first game is one game that I think I like more than a lot of these other games. Like there's a few games in here that I like over a bunch of them. This is one of like the 3 that I'm big into tonight. So I'll probably have more exposure to this Charlotte Atlanta game. Let's go to an interesting, like, real life game. I don't know how much I'm going to be interested in it from a DFS perspective.
Finals, odds on finals preview, right? Between these two.
Yeah, odds on finals preview. I personally don't think it's what's going to actually happen, but it is what the odds on finals preview is right now. You got no Jalen Williams for this game for OKC. This game is in Boston. Jason Tatum and I think Kristaps are both questionable. So I feel like Tatum plays. Kristaps, he did practice today. So I think that's encouraging for him to possibly play today. If he was ruled out, DC, though, I wouldn't be shocked. But even if it's just Tatum, I feel like he plays. This is a big game. Tatum, unless he's actually injured, he does not like to sit out big games in Boston against the number 1 seed in the West. Like you said, odds on finals preview here. I don't think Tatum missed this game unless he's like actually really injured, which I don't think he really is. It's a 2.5 point spread right now. I bet this earlier. It was 2 this morning. I thought Boston was a really good bet. I still think Boston is a pretty good bet. I think in this spot here, Boston, as long as they're healthy, as long as Tatum's in, Kristaps can be in or out. I don't think that matters as much. It'll definitely help, but I don't think it matters as much. I think Boston this is one of the spots where they probably roll here without Jalen Williams. They're going to focus a ton on SGA, which means guys like Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, Caruso, these are the guys that are going to have to win the game for OKC against Boston. So, DC, you might like one of these guys, like an Aaron Wiggins or something like that, because those are the guys I think that are going to have big games in order for OKC to have a chance against Boston tonight. Because I don't think they're just going to, let Shea just dominate. I don't believe that's going to happen. So it's got to be one of these other OKC guys. And it's only a 2.5 point spread. So Vegas thinks this game is close. I kind of feel like it might not be, but if it is close, who do you like from OKC?
Yeah, I mean, last time these teams faced each other, SGA went absolutely off when he put up 67 fantasy points in that one. Not sure who was in or out that game, honestly, but obviously proven he can do it against the Celtics. Might be even more difficult, like you said, with increased attention. Jalen Williams is a big loss for them, right? Obviously does a ton for their team just in general. And I know, like you said, giving some of the bumps to the Wallaces and the Wiggins and the Dorts of the world. Problem is it's still tough to pinpoint with any, I think, accuracy who it's going to be from those guys on a night-to-night basis, right? It just like that. They just kind of have their defined roles, and it's like who's going to, I don't know, it's not get lucky, but find themselves open for shots and then make the shots and then, or, get the rebounds to fall their way or whatever. So those guys are tough. I do think they're all fine. I wouldn't play necessarily multiple of those guys in one lineup. So it kind of just leaves SGA, right? Especially with Holmgren and Chet back. Obviously Chet Holmgren and Hardenstein in there. Kind of hard to play either of those guys, I think. So I think SGA himself is a really good play. Obviously has the track record from earlier. And, he might just be too much for Boston. He's just really, really hard to stop when he decides he wants to be the primary scorer in the offense. So I don't mind SGA. I do like him more than both LaMelo and Trey, but not quite as much as Harden if we're spending at point guard. And in Boston, obviously depends on the injury news. I'm with you, JSU. I do think Tatum plays. What Porzingis say? He has some illness that they can't figure out what it is. I think
he practiced, so I think he's feeling a little better.
Okay, good. If he's in, I think Boston becomes if he and both Tatum are in, right? I think Boston becomes much more difficult to play. So, like you said, clearly the overall, we got Philly and Toronto tankfest coming up. Clearly the best game of the night. But yeah, DFS wise, a good chance, especially if the Boston guys play, playing our 1-3 teams. Possibly don't get to anyone from this game. I think is realistic, right?
Well, this is the way I think I'm going to play it. I don't think I like Boston. And unless Tatum is going to be out, which then I would change my opinion, because if Tatum's out, then I think these Boston guys become better plays for DFS. But I'm going under the assumption Tatum plays. Maybe Porzingis does too, but at least Tatum plays. So I'm probably going to X out a lot of these Boston guys from my 1-3 teams. If you're MMEing, you can totally leave Tatum in the pool. You can leave a couple of these guys like Jaylen Brown. You can leave them in the pool, but I'm not going to play them for 1-3. But the OKC side is more interesting because it's like you said, last game SGA went off. I think it's going to be a little harder without Jalen Williams on the floor, but at the same time, he is the leading MVP guy right now. Not to say he can't do it, but I feel like a Lou Dort or an Aaron Wiggins has to have a good game if this game stays close. I just don't see SGA by himself doing it. I have to think someone like Lou Dort is hitting a bunch of threes, or Aaron Wiggins is dropping 20 actual points, which he can do. It's just the price tags on Aaron Wiggins are
they're too high.
700. Man, they're so high. He's not going to have ownership, though. I'll tell you that. That's the one thing. If you play these OKC guys, me personally, DC, the guys in play for me are SGA, Lou Dort, and Aaron Wiggins. Because I think if this game stays close, 2 of those 3 guys have big games. So those are the 3 OKC guys I'm going to keep in my pool. And again, they're going to be unowned. I might even stack them together on one team and just say, screw it. If OKC's in this game, it's going to be these 3 guys that do it. So I might do that just for low ownership. And then I can play chalk all around that, because those guys aren't going to be owned outside of maybe SGA's 10%, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't mind that approach.
Chet disrespect is wild. What's wild about the Chet disrespect? Chet's 8K. Yeah. That's a crazy price tag for Chet. I don't know about you, DC.
There's just no chance I'm paying 8K for Chet here.
You are getting 30 minutes max. Like that's my issue with these guys. Like Chet Holmgren, if you told me that he had a chance to play 35, 36 minutes, I'd be like, okay, maybe. But if he's getting max 30, I don't know how we're playing Chet.
Listen, I mean, if 99% of the field are disrespecting Chet, then I guess so are we. Because his projected ownership is currently sitting at 1. So
there's a reason behind that, though. He's way too expensive.
No, I know. Yeah, of course.
There's a reason why Aaron Wiggins projected at 0.2% or whatever. He's too high. But again, okay, if you like Chet and he's your guy, that's fine. I don't like paying $8K for those type. I rather pay $4,900, $5,700 as opposed to $8K is more my.
If you got Chet pegged for those 70 fantasy points, go win yourself some money tonight, sir. With everyone.
Oh my, V-Nair just like off the top rope right here. Chet is a poor man's Precious Achiuwa right there. Poor man's Precious Achiuwa. That's disrespectful. I'm fine with it, but that is definitely where we go with disrespectful here. So, all right, that's OKC in Boston. Good game. I think a better game. I like Boston minus the 2.5 still, or that's what it is on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. If you want to hit that, Philly in Toronto. Now, DC, the Boston game was like the game like we all want to watch for betting and overall play and stuff like that for the NBA. This is like the game that all the DFS guys want to watch. Like me and Mangone are watching Philly and Toronto on the main TV,
But that's like these comparing these two games like encapsulates one of the problems with the NBA in general. Like, yes, you are correct that we're going to play all the players from this game. I'm going to turn this game on instead of OKC Boston because I want to sweat my team. And so we're going to watch these two teams who are 11th and 12th in the Eastern. They actually have they're a half game apart, 22 and 42, 22 and 43.
So this is a big game to lose.
Yes. These teams know for sure about this and need to lose this game. So we could see weird lineups. We could see wonky rotations. We could see players getting pulled for playing too well. And it definitely makes me think, JSU, that Scotty Barnes is not going to play in this game. It just wouldn't make any sense to have him out there. So, I mean, you look at this Raptors team, we're talking at least 2 or 3. If Barnes hits, I mean, maybe more than that with the Raptors. You have to take a hard look at them. And, Philadelphia is not far behind either. Obviously missing Embiid, but of course, Maxey, Paul George, perhaps Oubre. Again, I kind of lean that Oubre and Barnes sit this game out because these teams want to lose. And the easiest way to do that is get your good players off the court because the players that are on the court are going to try, right? They're going to try to play well and to win the game for the most part. But if they can't play, obviously they can't help. So I do think Oubre and Barnes sit, and I think we get a game that is frankly awesome for DFS. Get all your value in this one.
I assume that you think Quentin Grimes will not play 39 minutes tonight.
I think he might be an exception if he's playing well again. Where they're like, I don't know. They seem to kind of want to see what they got with him a little bit, and let him go. He's a younger player.
What's interesting is the coach came out 2 games ago, I think it was 2 games ago, said, I want to go easy. I don't want to play, Quentin, Kelly Oubre, and maybe it was Yershon Yabusele, 39 minutes, 40 minutes a night. It's just too much. I want to pull them back a little bit, pull their minutes back. And then, so I don't know if it was maybe like the fact that Kelly was out last game and Yabusele, was he out last game too? I can't remember exactly. I think he was out last game, but maybe he wasn't. But either way, Kelly was out, and maybe it was like, oh, Kelly's out. We kind of need Quentin to play more. But I have a feeling he doesn't. I don't think he plays 39. I think we see him go back to the Utah game, which was right before the coach's quotes, saying that they were going to pull him back, and they did in that game. He played only 27 minutes. The game was pretty close too. It wasn't like it was a complete blowout or anything like that. And he played 27, still scored 41 fantasy points, but he was 6,500. Now he's 7,600. I'm going to go that way. If he plays 39 minutes again, DC, though, he has the 50+ point upside easy if he's playing that type of run. I just don't think the coach is going to go there.
It's it's on the road, right? So there's no I think sometimes the coaches think they got to try to win if their players are playing well at home. So that is a point, I think, in your favor of potentially less minutes. And the real way to do it, right, is to give them like an absurdly long rest in the first half, like make them sit. They do this all the time, right? You're like, there's no way this guy should be off the court from like 6 minutes in the first quarter to 6 minutes left in the second quarter. But that might be something they do with Grimes to hold those minutes back. So the upside is clearly there, right? Even at 7,600, we've seen it from him. But we talk about this a lot. When you get two teams like this, where you have all these players who are cheap, you got two teams disincentivized to even try to win. I think the way to lean in general is the cheap guys on teams like this, because you still kind of give yourself as much upside with those guys because you just don't necessarily know who it's going to be, but you reduce your risk so much, right? You can only hurt you. Like if something happens to Grimes and he just doesn't, plays like 22 minutes or some BS, you're paying a lot for uncertainty. Not the case with, the AJ Lawsons of the world, right?
No, and I'll add to your point, not just cheap guys, but cheap young guys. All right, you don't want to be playing. I saw this. JC's going to be loaded up. Garrett Temple is not a guy you want to be playing. And absolutely not. Like Alex Len, when they threw him in the starting lineup a couple games ago, and I told Chad, I said, I'd rather punch myself in the nuts than play any Alex Len. I mean, that's just Garrett Temple, same thing. I'd rather just sock myself right in the nuts than play Garrett Temple. I refuse to play those type of guys. I will play, though, young guys, hungry, guys that want to get in there and show that they have something to give to a team. Because that's what March and April for these bad teams, that's what it all is about. Because they're not playing for anything else. They don't need to see Quentin Grimes anymore. They already know he's a good player. He can be a starter or a role player. He can do either or, but he's got a role for a good team. Doesn't matter who, he's got a role. I think Philly realized that. He's went off for 50+ a few times now. They know what they got with him. And it might have been what you said too, the home thing. Now they're not at home, because I do believe in that a little bit. Like it's tougher to pull a guy out when he's killing it at home. The fans, are into it and stuff like that. But now they're not there. You want to find guys that are gonna, play all out. I think the Toronto side is a little easier because you got guys like Jamal Shed, young guy, rookie, someone who's really talented. I like him at 4,400. You got AJ Lawson for Toronto. Jared Roden, 3,300. Those are guys that I think are very much in play.
Those are the two that I'm looking at from Toronto, Lawson and Roden, 4K, 3,300. Both of them, you're looking back to like their history, even in the G League. These are guys that like launch threes, like 8 or 9 3-point attempts. Those are like the cheap dudes that you want, right? Because they're going to get in there and at least they're going to chuck it, especially in a game like this where, how much defense are we really going to see in this game? Yeah. So, these guys should have the opportunity to take 7 or 8 threes, which at those price points is pretty nice.
And if Scotty's out, there's going to be no one there that like commands the ball. So like those young guys are going to have a green light. Like when one star is in. Yeah, but like my point is like when one star is in, they always want the ball. Like if Scotty's in, he's going to get the ball at the top of the key a ton, and he's going to try and create for himself and then others. Whereas like if he's not in, they're just going to move the ball and just naturally take open shots and stuff instead of worrying about like, okay, we got to get to Scotty, get the ball to Scotty, and then Scotty will get it to us when help comes. They don't have to worry about that shit when there's no veteran like that. So I do think these Toronto guys are probably the better plays than Philly. But if all these guys like Oubre, Drummond, Yabusele end up being out, then I think you can look to the Ricky Councils at 3,400, the Lonnie Walkers. Well, I think Lonnie Walker's in play anyways, but Lonnie Walker becomes a better play. Jeff Doughton, I think, would become a better play. He played 28 minutes last game. I kind of like him too. I think he's a good player. Jared Butler's a good player, 4,400. So they're gonna depend more on if all those three guys are in or out for me, DC, to whether how heavy I go on Philly. Because if all three of those guys are in, or like two of those three guys are in, I'll probably go more heavy on the Toronto side than the Philly side.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I also say if Barnes is in, I think you can still play some Toronto, but it really does take a lot away from all the value places. So if I'm wrong about that and Barnes does end up playing, I'll be definitely more cautious with Toronto. What about like Jakob Poeltl? You going to the Toronto big men at all?
I don't like the big. That's the one spot for Toronto I don't like.
What about Boucher? Boucher's at 3,200.
I hate him. They hate him. I want to play him. They hate him so much.
He got a DNP last game, right? I think.
Yeah, he hasn't played the last couple games.
He hasn't played forever. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We know he's got the upside. If you think he's going to get run, I struggle with him.
I would only play him if he gets a start for whatever reason. But
yeah,
off the bench,
I think DC, if Scotty Barnes is out, he's got at least a chance to then play and get minutes. I won't like him if Scotty's in. If Scotty's out, I think you could look to him. But I will say he's still behind like Shed, Roden, Lawson. I think they're still safer plays. But
Agreed.
Boucher definitely has upside, like in tournaments. But if you're playing that $5 and you're playing like, let's say 20 lineups, Scotty Barnes ends up being out, take some shots on Boucher. He could do it off the bench. And he's one guy they only give minutes to if he's like absolutely rolling. But that's how you win a tournament. If he's rolling, he's going to be doing really well. So, yeah, I mean, that's this game, Toronto, Philly. How would you rank the Philly guys, DC, just right now? Like the cheapies.
I think it's close between a lot. It depends on if Oubre's in or out, right? To a larger extent.
Yeah, I think the guy I don't love as much is Justin Edwards. I think they like him already. I think they're going to want to see more of these other guys.
I like Council if Oubre's out. Played 29. He can score a little bit, right? He's kind of got some dynamism.
He's got a weird shot, but he's athletic. He'll shoot the three. Yeah, I mean he's definitely a good fantasy producer, I would say. So
you have a favorite guy on Philly that you think you're going to play for?
Yeah,
sure?
If Oubre's out, I definitely like Council. I think Lonnie Walker right now is probably the best of the value plays, just with no one in or out. Just looking at it right now, he's probably the best one. Jared Butler would be too, but if all those guys end up being out, then I'll like Ricky, Jeff Doughton a little bit more and lean more them for the extra savings. But right now, Lonnie Walker seems like the best guy.
He looks like a good play. I'm with you there. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I saw someone earlier say something about here it is, Jason, who's got the baseball content. DC's got his rankings up on the site. If you are playing best ball or even season long, you can check out the rankings. They're on the Rump Your Sports website. DC and JT did a best ball show. I think it was last week, talking about, just best ball and baseball overall and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, that's still on this YouTube channel. You can go back, rewatch it, and check out those rankings. DC will have you guys covered this year for baseball, which starts up in a couple weeks. So DC will be transitioning from the hoops to the baseball field in a couple weeks, right, DC?
Yeah, well, rankings up on the site, like you said, but DFS is what we're focused on, and we'll be ready to go opening day for MLB DFS. I promise you that. It'll be a fun start. Can't wait to get going.
All right, next game here, Utah and Memphis. Memphis still without some of their bigs like Jaren Jackson, Sandy Aldama here, DC, and Zach Edey is questionable for this game as well. But it's the stars like Desmond Bain, John Morant. I like these guards here for Memphis, especially Desmond Bain at 8,300. He's been crushing. I know he had a down game last game, but before that, 57 and 68 fantasy points. It seems like a pretty good bounce back spot for him coming off of the down game. He still played 34 minutes. He just, didn't do as much, didn't shoot as much, took 24 and 23 shots the 2 games prior to taking 11 shots last game. But he gets a matchup against Utah at home. I definitely feel like it's a bounce back spot for someone like Desmond Bain. I'm fine with playing Ja as well. If you rather Ja, he's been really good the last 3 games as well. Consistent too, 49, 53, 53. He is 9,300 though. He's not 8,400 like he was in the past, but I think both those spends are in play. I think Gigi Jackson, if Edey's out, is a decent play as well, 4,200. I think he's an okay value play. Jay Huff, if Edey's out, he played 25 minutes. I don't know. You probably didn't see this, but did you see the Cam Spencer, Kevin Durant back and forth? Cam Spencer giving it to KD. It was great. I don't know if you've ever seen Cam Spencer, but if you haven't, you should look him up because this little white dude was talking smack to KD. And he's like your typical 2 DC. He's like the only one on the floor who thinks he's still in college because he wears the T-shirt under the jersey. So you can see like the T-shirt, outside out under the jersey. It's so good. It's like, dude, you still think you're in college? You're in the pros now, and you got your T-shirt under there. But it was good. It was good seeing him just talk smack to KD. I kind of enjoyed it. It was funny. It was fun. It was so funny. KD was like talking smack, and then like him and Bain started talking. It was almost like he was like, "Screw you, dude. I don't need to talk smack to you. I'll talk shit to Desmond Bain. He's a hooper." But I don't know if I'm gonna go back to Cam Spencer, but he did crush last game. 19 minutes, 29 fantasy points. He was 4 for 7 from 3. But DC, a lot of plays in this game. I think the Memphis side, but I could also make the case for some of the Utah plays too. What are you seeing here in this game?
Yeah, starting with Memphis. I mean, you take Aldama and of course, most importantly, Jaren Jackson Jr. out of the equation. And Memphis needs Morant and Bain to do a lot, right? They just don't have, in terms of forwards and at the center and big men, just don't have a lot of offensive punch. I mean, you're going, Edey or one of Edey or Clark or Huff, and then it's Jackson and Wells. These guys are not players capable of really carrying much of an offensive load at all. So that's why you're seeing the huge games from Bain, from Morant. And against Utah, I mean, at home, they're projected for almost 130 points. Morant and Bain seem really safe, which you don't normally say about Memphis guys, with clearly a ceiling as well, right? 2 guys that can absolutely go off, especially against Utah. Memphis is going to play well. So I like both Morant and Bain. I think if choosing between the 2, I'll take the $1,000 discount down to Desmond Bain, but I think both guys are good plays. I think you could play them together. Probably prefer to have them apart, but I wouldn't hate playing them together. They could absolutely both have big games on the same night. I just think it's more likely that one of them does than both of them do, but I wouldn't hate that. And then on the Utah side, they're actually playing more of their normal dudes than they normally do, right? Tonight it looks like. So Markkanen, questionable. We got to pay attention to that news, but they will have Sexton, Collier, maybe maybe Clarkson as well. So I'll have to pay attention to the Utah news. But for me, the story of this game is those Memphis guards, both Ja and Desmond Bane, like you mentioned, look like really strong plays tonight.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to play one of them. I think I'm leaning Bane if I got to pick between one. And I didn't even talk about like the Utah guys, but I like these Utah bigs, man. Walker Kessler's been really good in these spots. He's shown he's flashed some big time monster games. A 64 2 games ago against Toronto. He could absolutely dominate. And John Collins has been actually pretty damn good. Obviously, he's been back and forth because he's been in and out, right? They've been holding these guys out, kind of tanking pretty much. But the past 2 games he's played in DC, which obviously he played against Boston. And then before that, he sat out for like 10, 12 days straight. And then, but like 49 fantasy points the last 2 games. When he gets the run, he's producing. So I think both those guys are pretty interesting fantasy plays. I'd be fine with even a game stack. I talked about there were definitely 3 games I'm a little heavier on than the rest. This is definitely one of those games. Philly Toronto is definitely one of those games. These are games that I really like. I think there's plays that we can get to, and kind of all different ranges too. So yeah, I'm in on this game, especially the Utah bigs and the Memphis guards. I think a little less into the Memphis bigs. I think if Gigi Jackson would be my favorite if I had to pick one right now. But yeah, I definitely like the bigs from Utah and the Memphis guards here. So anything else from Utah for you?
I think that covers it. Definitely more in on the Memphis side here myself.
Yeah, Collins only 6,600. Just it feels too cheap, but yeah, that's it. Derek from San Antonio. Let's get it, boys. What's up, Derek? Appreciate you watching. Hit the like button too. If you guys are enjoying the show, you can hit that thumbs up for us. We appreciate that. Let's go to Dallas and San Antonio. Speaking of San Antonio, where Derek is from, San Antonio at home against Dallas. I think these teams, they just played 2 days ago, I think, too, right? Yeah, they just played each other. Pretty sure Dallas won that game. It was a close game. A lot of points in that game, though. Spencer Dinwiddie had a big game last time out. This game, PJ Washington is questionable for. It feels like he might have a chance to play DC here. I'm not sure. Either way, though, I mean, Dallas is super thin. We got to check on the Brandon Williams, who's questionable, the Dante Exums, who's questionable, because like they've got 3 guys who are questionable and the rest of their team's like kind of banged up. So I like one of these guys has to play here for Dallas. But, outside of that, they've been playing these guys, decent amount of minutes. Klay Thompson's been getting 36, 32 his last two games, putting up 26 actual points. I mean, Najee Marshall's had some monster games. Last time out was kind of a, his lower scoring game, but 33 fantasy points before that, 66 and 58. He's 7,500 now. What are you doing with Dallas here? Because it definitely seems like Dallas is probably the better side for fantasy than San Antonio.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And weirdly, I think a lot for Dallas depends on whether or not Brandon Williams goes. He had the 3 big games in a row after getting, kind of stuck into the rotation with the Kyrie injury, including that huge game against Memphis where he dropped 50, but then missed last game. And that coincided with the huge Dinwiddie game, right? Because they were essentially down to Dinwiddie as the primary ball handler. Him and Williams could kind of share that role. So a lot depends on Williams for me. If he's out, I think Dinwiddie at 5,700, I mean, he just did it, right? Against the same team, put up 50 fantasy points. He has to, and it would be essentially the same role if Williams misses. So if Williams is out, I like Dinwiddie. If Williams is in, I don't mind going back to him at 4,500. Clearly has quite a bit of upside. Dallas has no reason not to play him if he's playing well and feeling good. So that situation, the guards for Dallas, Dinwiddie and Williams, something that I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on. It's hard for me, JSU, to pay $7,500 for Najee Marshall. But I mean,
by the way, too, I got laughed at for talking up how Najee Marshall was such a good ad to start the season for this team. He's a very good role player who is clearly better than what he shows. It's just that there were so many good players on Dallas that like he didn't have to do this. But look at what he's doing, DC. Like seriously, these last 3 games, he's been crazy. I mean, the last game not as good, but friggin' 34 and 29 and 23 actual points from Najee Marshall. Yep. Almost a triple double in one of those games against Phoenix.
It reminds me of Brian Scalabrine,
of course I know Scal.
Yeah, so he was like, some clown on Twitter was like saying, you're a freaking bum, you're not playing very many minutes or whatever. And he's like, the truth is, I think his quote was like, I'm much closer to LeBron than you are to me.
That was his quote. That was his quote.
I bring it up because you see it when these NBA teams have injuries, and a guy like Najee Marshall, who looks like he's, just a role player who doesn't have a ton of skills. Well, he can go out for 66 fantasy points, right? If he's given a real role. So it just reminds you
how many times do you listen to these guys and they talk like this, like. And they feel like some of them, a lot of them will feel like they really never got that chance. Guys that retired maybe 10, 20 years ago, they never really got that chance to like shine, but had more to show if they got that chance. And it's like, honestly, now in the NBA, more than ever, DC, because of the tanking,
you get your chance.
These guys do get that actual chance with all the tanking that happens. So a lot of these guys don't actually slip through the cracks if they're really that good and they show it, which is kind of funny that like the NBA is so different now, but it does show you that these players at the end of the bench or role players are still so much better than what people give them respect for.
The day of just like completely undiscovered talent in sports is gone. There's like too much technology and money behind it. So
listen, even Bronny, if you like Bronny, even
JSU,
James,
I need your take on the LeBron.
I don't know if you want my take on the LeBron. I've already talked about this a little bit. I ranted on the show yesterday. Some people enjoyed it, probably some people hated it, but that's just how I feel. Like LeBron was a bitch for doing what he did to Stephen A. And I don't like Stephen A. I don't like Stephen A. I feel like every other thing that comes out of his mouth is about race, and I hate it, which is a dividing thing. It drives me nuts because he has such a big platform. The guy just got $100 million contract, and he'll still go on a podcast and talk about woe is me and everything like that. I'm like, dude, you got $100 million from ESPN. You're doing pretty good right now. I'll just say that. Like, love America, love what you do. You just got $100 million. Like, stop it with all that bullshit. But he got walked up on by LeBron out of nowhere when all they had to do was be like, hey, Rich Paul could have called Stephen A and been like, hey, Bron wants to talk to you after the game. I'm sure Stephen A would have been like, okay, sure. And he could have said what he wanted to say, and it wouldn't have looked as bad. Now what it looks like to me is a father who's defending his son, but his son is a professional athlete. He's not a high school kid. He's not a middle school kid. He's a professional athlete, DC, on the Lakers, and his daddy is defending him. Doesn't that sound silly? Like, if you're a professional at anything and your dad needs to come defend you, you're going to get laughed at by most of the people around you. That's just a fact.
He's obviously only in the league because of who his dad is in the first place. So
Of course he is.
It's all convoluted. But yeah, you and B now, you would have slapped LeBron's bitch ass, right? If he came up to you and then told you what's up.
No, we're not slapping LeBron. No one's like he's 6'9", 260. No one's but still, that's fine.
You didn't reach up that high, you'd be like swinging.
I mean, I try and jump and hit him in the face. He'd probably bull rush me if I did that, but like that's okay. Like you get knocked on your ass, he'd punch me in the face, whatever. But it doesn't change the fact that he's not helping his son he thinks he's helping his son,
yes,
but he's doing it for himself. This is my point. I don't care if Stephen A said he was a terrible father. He's doing this for himself, not for his son, because his son's going to look back and be like, Dad, why'd you do this in front of everybody? Because it went viral.
I bet Bronny's already saying that to himself, even if Bronny himself is like kind of lying to himself and thinking, like, I'm sure deep down he knows. Yeah, this is not.
He knows for sure. But I think he was upset, which, I mean, he's young. Like, he's 19, 20 years old. Like, I'm sure he was upset that Stephen A talked about him. And he didn't realize he was going to, maybe he did realize it. You're LeBron James's kid. Like, you're going to get scrutinized no matter what. Like, play good, play bad, in the middle. You're going to get you're going to get talked about, DC. And LeBron did that to his kid.
I feel bad. I honestly feel bad for Bronny. I think it's a really, really tough spot to be growing up. I mean,
I do too. That's why I stopped making fun of him, because I actually feel bad for him. I stopped doing it because I'd rather make fun of his dad for being an idiot. Like there's no reason he had to do that, and he did it anyways because he wanted to show that he has all the power, because he kind of does.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Yeah, we're on the same page.
All right, that's it. LeBron is a big baby. I mean, what are you going to do? Stephen A should have just kept talking shit and see what happened. I believe him when he said, I heard him on the Gills podcast saying something like, I just signed for $100 million and I work for Walt Disney. What's it going to look like if me and LeBron are like arguing back and forth, or it got like somewhat physical, or anything happened like that? Like, I just signed a contract. Stephen A. smart. The one thing he's smart. He just signed for money. He's not losing that deal, right, DC? You just got $100 million. You're not doing anything to jeopardize that deal.
You certainly shouldn't, but I would really, really enjoy watching LeBron and Stephen A. come to blows on the court. That would have been an entertaining
LeBron would have wiped the floor with Stephen A. Smith. Dude, Stephen A. looked so small compared to LeBron when they were like standing there. I was like, holy crap, LeBron is just a giant human being.
Yeah.
But all right, that's it. See, it's DC's fault. If you wanted to hear that rant again, I tried to lower it a little bit, but it's DC's fault. He got me back into it. So blame DC if you didn't want to hear it. The Spurs side, though, DC, just to clear out this side, Vassell is questionable right now. I don't see a ton that I love, but I will say, if Vassell is out, I do think Stephen Castle becomes a much better play.
100%. That one feels like almost like direct benefit, right? For Castle, yeah, I'm with you there.
Him and Keldon Johnson, actually, he's the other guy. I forgot to talk about him, but he got a bump too from, I think, Shohan being out yesterday. So that's another thing. If Vassell and Shohan end up being out, I think it bumps Castle and I think it bumps Keldon, and I'll actually really like them if they're out.
Agreed. So, I think that's 100% with you there.
Keep that keep up, because that's kind of sneaky injury news that you want to have. I think so if they're out. So keep an eye on that. Did I miss Mangone's injury report? No, Joe Ruff. I tried to do the quick injury report, not get into all 500 injuries, but if you want Mangone's injury report, you'll have to get in the Discord. He'll be back tomorrow on the show too, so you'll get it tomorrow. But all right, Phoenix and Houston, 2 more games left to talk about here. Phoenix, they need to win games, DC, not just for like from a DFS perspective. Obviously, you can look to these guys. Grayson Allen's doubtful. I think Nick Richards is also, is he doubtful too? He's doubtful. So I do think you can look here to some of these Phoenix guys. Like I said, they have to win. I think they're 11th right now in the West, DC. So they're just out of the play-in, I'm pretty sure. So, they can't afford to lose many more games. Portland's on their heels, a game or two back from them. I think Dallas or San Antonio, I can't remember, like one of them's in the 10 spot. So, this is very important from a winning perspective, but I do think you can pull some DFS plays if you get the right ones. If Nick Richards is out, who starts at center is my question. Do they start Mason Plumlee? Do they move Bull to the 5 and maybe start Royce O'Neal or go small with Tyus Jones? They have a couple options, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, KD can play the 5. We've seen Iguodaro in there at times. And then, Bull has been like a wild card, right? He's had games where he barely plays. He's had games where he's the best play on the DFS slate. You got to have him. So we'll see what Phoenix does. I mean, we do know Durant and Booker, they're going to play big minutes. They're playing like 40 minutes a night. Like you said, they got to win games. They're going to be out there. I think both of them are pretty solid plays, assuming Durant has recovered from his trash talking battle with Cam Spencer. Is that who it was? Cam Spencer? I think that was the name.
It was Cam Spencer, and then indirectly became Desmond Bane.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big part for Phoenix is what they're going to do at the center spot. Even if Plumlee starts, not guaranteed to play big minutes, right? Like you said, they've got a few options to go small in that scenario. I do think if Plumlee does start at 3,400, you'd have to give him strong consideration. He would be a guy that I would want and be more than happy to have in my lineup if he starts. I don't really want Plumlee if he's coming off the bench, however. And then I think, you could play Durant and Booker together. I'd probably prefer to play one or the other myself. But I do think both guys are solid plays. And then on the Houston side, I mean, they're interesting too. Obviously missing Amen Thompson, which opens things up a little bit more. For the guys that are left, I think I kind of like the power forwards for Houston, the small forward, power forward spot. I think Jabari Smith, Eason, and Dylan Brooks all look pretty good to me in that 4 to 5K range. Brooks all the way down to 4,400, which I don't really know why we're getting such a nice discount on him, but I do like him as a play. And then I suppose you could go to Sengun, but probably not going to get there at 9,700. I think you can do a little bit better if spending all the way up. So, Houston forwards look awesome. And then, Phoenix, got to watch the big man spot. And then if you want to play Booker and or Durant, I think that's totally fine as well.
Yeah, I think for me, Beal at his price tag, 6,500 looks interesting. I'm probably going to go different spend ups, DC. So I probably won't be in on the Phoenix guys. I think if you're MMEing, I'd definitely be fine with getting some KD or Booker if you want.
I probably won't end up there, but they're fine plays for sure. Yeah.
Right. And then these other guys, it's going to all depend on what they do with the starters. If they start Mason Plumlee, I'll probably be less into the Bull thing. If they start Bull at the 5, I might be more intrigued with Bull. If Royce O'Neal starts, I'd also be more intrigued with him. So it just kind of depends on who they roll with. If they start Mason Plumlee, that's where I'll be like less intrigued in all those guys, like the Royces, the Bulls.
What about Plumlee himself?
If they start Mason at 3,400, I can play a little Mason. I mean, the last 3 games, DC's played 26, 20, and 27 minutes. And you can make the case that I'm trying to remember. It was the Clipper game. I'm sorry. So it was 4 games ago against the Clippers where they stormed back. The Clippers were beating the shit out of them. By like 20 plus. And it looked like the team was about to quit. And then Mason Plumlee came in and I think it was like the end of the third quarter, maybe the start of the fourth, and gave this team a massive spark. They end up coming back and I think winning the game too, if I remember correctly. It was like a 2-point game. It was a crazy comeback though. And it sparked off of like the bench guys, but like especially Mason Plumlee and a couple other guys. I think Connor Gillespie was one of the other guys that, went crazy off the bench, scored 10 points, hit a couple threes, but he's been playing good ever since then. And he's gotten run ever since then. So they kind of went away from him for a stretch. So I could see them just starting him. And in that case, I think he's an okay play.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call.
Yeah. So, okay. And then the Houston side, I'm with you. I think it's the forwards. So like Tari Eason, I'm probably a little lower than you on Houston in general, but I think Tari Eason is probably the main guy for me that I'm going to look at here. So, all right, let's go to the last game on the slate, Clippers and the Heat here. No Kawhi Leonard, no Norman Powell, Ben Simmons still out for the Clippers. I would assume with all these guys out is one of the many reasons why James Harden might be one of your favorite spend ups, DC.
Yeah, and I still do like Harden, but the total in this game is like alarmingly low. What is it sitting at? Like 205, 206 right now.
It's very low.
Yeah, Sabres got it even lower than that. So
205 and a half on DK Sportsbook.
You got to give it, a little second look when you get a total that low, because the game's going to be slower paced. Obviously, fewer opportunities, but with all the guys the Clippers are missing, Powell, Kawhi Leonard, obviously the two, but Simmons also out. I mean, it has to be the James Harden show, right? He's starting alongside like Chris Dunn, Coffey, Bogdanovich, Derek Jones, Zubac. These guys just can't do a lot offensively without Harden. So I like him. I know it's going to, like I said, a slower game. I will say he's a guy who does pretty much all his damage in the half court anyway. So it's not, the slower pace of the game. That just means he's going to have the ball like every possession based on who they have left. So I'm not sure it hurts him as much as it hurts everyone else in this game. And perhaps maybe even holds his projection down a little bit, the likely slow pace of the game. So I still like Harden. I do think he is by far the best play on the Clippers. I like Zubac too, but 8,400 is pretty expensive for him. He has put up 4 40-plus games in a row. If he was at his normal, 7,500 price, I'd be in. Not sure I'll get to him at 8,400. I don't think I'm going to play anyone else on the Clippers unless something pops. Derek Jones Jr. down at 3,900 I think is an okay play, but I do question how much upside he has. So mostly Harden for me. And then on the Miami side, I mean, these guys are priced up too, right? Yes, they're missing dudes, but like 9,400 for Bam, 87 for Tyler Hero, 6,500 for Wiggins. You're not getting a discount for the increase in roll. So, low total. Mostly it's Harden for me in this game, but I do still really like him.
Yeah, I think the plays Harden, maybe Chris Dunn too for the Clippers are like the two guys I think are okay to me. And then the other guys are more MME plays. Like Zubac's more an MME play because he does feel a bit overpriced. Low total, like you said, but he's been really good. So like I think he's fine for MME. And the Heat guys kind of all seem like MME plays. Like it's a real low total. I wouldn't be shocked if one of them get there. I think the guy I like the most is Tyler Hero, but like you said, these guys are back. Like Andrew Wiggins was out for a stretch. He's been back the last couple games. Khalil Ware was out for a little stretch too. And then these price tags, like Bam's price tag, DC, it went from, 7,800 all the way up to 93, 9,400 now. So like that's a massive difference. Even Tyler Hero's price tag has gone up. And that's from playing a lot of these games without some of these guys, being in and out. So
I think Honestly, I think Miami is like pretty much off my board on this slate. I just don't see a lot there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. A bunch of news kind of hit while we were talking. I just saw it. So, I mean, Scotty Barnes is ruled out like we thought. Jason Tatum, like we thought, was going to play. Kristaps Porzingis is out. So that's just the news. The Jazz got fined $100K for violation of a player participation policy. I guess it happened on the 5th of March with Lauri Markkanen. Something about him.
Does that money go to losing DFS players, or does it go?
Hopefully it goes to like charity or something like this. It should go to charity. I mean, the amount of shit that gets pulled with these players where they're in and they're out, or they say they're good to go and then they're not, or the other way around. It's crazy to me, DC. It's crazy. They need to find teams more, because clearly teams actually don't give a shit or take these rules seriously. They need to have harsher fines for like the late scratches where guys are clearly injured or sick all day, and then all of a sudden they weren't on the injury report, and then all of a sudden 10 minutes after the game started, they're out. And you're like, what the hell? It happened that day when we played Porzingis. And we're like,
what they really need to do is make it important for the teams to try to win games, and then they wouldn't have to fine people for lying. But
they're not doing that right now.
That's a much more difficult thing to do than
why? You know why? Because if that was the case, DC, how do they do that? Do they shorten the season? Well, they won't do that, because then they'll lose money.
Well, yeah.
Do they make the postseason? Do they extend the postseason? More teams in the postseason? Do they do a play-in tournament that's larger for all the teams before the playoffs start, and get 10 teams in the playoffs on each side? Like how would they, you know what I'm saying? Like, how would they do it?
The possibilities are limitless on what they could do, but they got to change something. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, whatever. It just drives me insane. So I guess we'll just keep talking about it and nothing will happen. Exactly. But that's all right. All right, DC, let's get our plays of the day, and then we'll get out of here. We'll get the content up over at runpuresports.com. RPS 15. If you want 15% off your first week or month, baseball is around the corner. We got MMA. We got the golf. PGA Players Championship locking tomorrow morning. Me, Big T, JVC, Uncle T. We're all going to be doing a show tonight. I will be hosting the show as those guys talk golf and give some winners for the people. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. If you're playing PGA DFS, if you're betting PGA, you'll want to check that show out. That'll be here on this channel. So check us out later tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. All right, DC. Play of the day. What do you got here? Mom's basement play of the day.
Yeah, we're going in the basement for this one. Give me Toronto Raptors legend in the making, Jared Rhoden. I'm gonna put up a big game for the Raptors tonight. There you go.
Well, I like how you said legend right there.
I tried to muster as much confidence as I could in the play.
No, you built them up. I saw what you did there, DC. You built it up. So
my best shot.
That's what you got to do. I'm going to go with Utah legend Walker Kessler here. Should be somewhat low owned, 7,200. Get a little tournament spice in there for Mr. Walker Kessler, 7,200 as my play of the day. Ready for JSU to have 15 players in the pool. You never know, Corey. It could be 17, 18 this year. You never know for the old golf, but we'll see. We'll come back tonight. Well, I'll have my pool more dialed in by tonight.
You only need 6. Just the 6 winners is all you need.
That's right. And listen, when I have 15 guys in my pool, DC, I'm gonna have every fucking combination twice over. I might have dupes on dupes. All the friggin' the dupe haters are gonna hate my teams because I'm gonna have like 3 of the same team. So if I win DC, I'm gonna win it 3, and I'm gonna have the top 3 teams. That's how it's going to roll here.
That's the way to do it. Get all that money.
Yeah. That's right. First, second, and third. JSU's time. All right, guys, that's going to do it here for this show. Like I said, hit the like button on your way out. Come back tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern for the PGA winners. With that, for DC and myself, JSU, hopefully we'll catch you in the Run Pure Sports Discord. Until tomorrow, we're out of here.